That's the trade-off, right? Is that it's like the logo is very legible, but the word itself is total bull.
Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes back our friend Riley from Allegaeon. If I've been saying it wrong for years.
Yeah.
Holy shit! But I will.
I wish I could say that you were the only one, but
I'm sure.
You're not.
I don't know. It's a cool name. It's got a lot of conjures a lot of stuff. We did a whole video with Greg on this. I can't retain shit. I'm getting too old, maybe too much partying back in the day. But I will throw myself on the sword at least. And there's definitely some unpronounceable. At least you guys have a logo we can read.
Yeah. That's the trade-off, right? Is that it's like the logo is very legible, but the word itself is total bullshit. So
maybe, just maybe. And speaking of words that are far-flung and have wild connotations, the new album coming out this week is, I'm going to say Damnum.
Yes.
Which is a legal term. I was going to ask you first and foremost, why that name and just kind of I know it comes from sort of legalese, but I wanted to get your perspective on why that was the name you landed on.
So the legalese term is actually just kind of a happy coincidence. Damnum is Latin for loss. And that's where the inspiration comes from, is that this album is very heavily centered around loss and grief and sadness and anger and all kinds of dark emotions. And the whole, I think that the legal term has to do something with like loss of property or like damages to property or something like that, which is not in line with what the album is all about. So
okay, fair enough. And that tracks because it's a very heavy, and I don't just mean musically or vocally, it is a very emotionally heavy record. It may take some people a few listens through to get it. I think possibly I definitely spent more time with it. Glad that I did, as opposed to what I usually do is like 1 listen, 2 listens through the new record, then I binge the whole back story. But I followed your band from the beginning just about, so it's like I don't have to go do that binge. So I spent this time mostly with the new record and a little bit of binging, and which also conjured some interesting things in me. But yeah, it has been a heavy time in the world, and again, I know you guys have been through a lot and channeled that into this record. It's a much more personal feeling record, lyrically and message wise, than some of your other stuff that has been very heady, science-y, physics, black holes and space and time is a flat circle stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was presented with the music for this album, it just felt very disingenuous, very like square peg in a round hole type of shit. When I went to go write like science-based lyrics, like it's just not where my head was. It wasn't where my heart was. And like, even when I tried to force it, listening to it on top of the music just felt so hollow to me. The caliber of the music is very dark and very emotional and like brings this like density to it that I felt like I really had to match vocally and lyrically for sure.
Right on. There's a very almost a gothic gloominess that I compare almost to like a early black and death metal Opeth or even Paradise Lost. There's just such a sadness on some of these tracks, man. I definitely felt we've all been going through shit collectively the last few years, and I hope at this point today everybody's okay for now, today, where you guys all are as it stands. But it's been just a grinder for a lot of people in humanity,
Oh yeah. And I think that, like aside from, the obvious, social and economic issues that have come with the pandemic over the past couple of years, like even just in our personal lives, that's why we named the album Loss, is that like we all experienced loss in one way or another, whether it was a direct result of the pandemic or not, over these past couple of years, just during this writing process. And I think that, had we not been in the middle of a pandemic, maybe some of these losses and these tragedies that we experience in our individual personal lives, might not have happened. But, pandemic notwithstanding, I'm just like, it's been such a rough couple years, just, growth wise, within our personal lives, that I think that this album kind of would have ended up sounding a similar way no matter what. And I'm glad it did, you know what I mean? Like, I'm glad that we have this outlet as people and as artists, to be able to like channel some of this shit through, to be able to, provide music to people who might also be going through something similar, to kind of latch onto. And that's ultimately the hope, you know what I mean? When you write an album like this, that's like on the surface kind of a downer. It's not in the hopes that people will listen to it and be like, wow, I feel terrible, but like kind of listen to it and be like, wow, someone else feels terrible and that makes me feel better. So
There's a lot of scientific research that says music that is like sort of sounds like it should make you feel terrible makes you feel better.
yeah.
So that's why metalheads are not unhappy. We're very happy.
Yes.
And also we love evil sounding
Yeah.
stuff. And I will say this is a tribute and a credit to your fans and your fans I've encountered across the years. I think, obviously, look, if Origin or Cannibal Corpse started to make records about basket weaving, I'm sure it would still be brutal, but people would be confused. But I think you guys have challenged your listeners and your fans for a long time and said, we're not every other death metal band. And I think and this is not a radical departure musically at all, but I just think subject matter and different, the sort of composing and just the deepness of the record, it is definitely gonna, nobody's going to be scratching their heads, and I think your fans will go with you on this journey of change and growth.
Yeah, I would agree. There's some bands that take those like hard left turns and leave people kind of being like, what just happened? And I think that we've always been conscious of that, as a band, to make sure that it's like, if we're incorporating new sounds or new themes or new dynamics or whatever it might be into the music or into the album, we don't want to do it in such a way that's going to leave people who have been, dedicated and committed to this band for a long time in the dust. So it's always been important to us to, make changes that are reflective of our growth as musicians and our growth as people over the years, not pigeonhole ourselves into one particular sound or style and just kind of make the music that we want to make, but also like be respectful of the fact that like we wouldn't be here without the support of our fans, and the last thing we want to do is like alienate them with, a totally different style of music.
Right on. No Tay Swift covers here on this one yet.
Yeah.
But we can hold out hope for someday. I will say, just jokes aside, and bad ones, but I'll say, just joking aside, I understand that there was kind of a whole new way of working within the band also this time around, that you guys sort of ground things up and changed sort of direction that you normally would write a record. And talk a little bit about that, because I think it's really interesting. It's usually veteran bands that don't allow for any change or variation. Not 15 years into your career, we're like, you know what, maybe we should do this a different way. It's very unusual.
Yeah. As I mentioned, we've always growing, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that we want to showcase the most, is that it's like, we're always growing as musicians, we're always changing. The thing about that is that sometimes, roots grow in different directions, right? And so the way that we used to do things, where, Greg would write 5 or 6 songs, and then Mikey would write 5 or 6 songs, and then everybody would kind of just like throw their parts on top of it. It stopped working because Greg and Mikey are like very different songwriters at this point, and so we ended up having this like weird dichotomy where like it was still good, you know what I mean? Like, there were ways that we could make it work and blend together and all this kind of stuff, but we were getting closer and closer to sounding like 2 different bands within the same band. And instead of, once we recognize that, instead of just being like, oh, well, that's just our, this is just how we do things, just deal with it type of thing, we kind of, pulled the lens back and reapproached how we write together in general. And so for this one, Greg wrote 5 or 6 songs, Michael wrote 5 or 6 songs, but instead of just like taking them for what they were, everybody would listen to it, give their, creative input, give their constructive criticisms, make their suggestions. And then based off of like how the majority of the band felt in one direction or another, we would either make those changes or discount them. And then from there, we took that same approach with every instrument. So it was the kind of thing where, when Jeff was programming his, pre-production drums, every time he would send us a track, we would all listen to it, take our notes, make our suggestions. When I was doing my pre-pro vocals, same thing, you know what I mean? And so, we ended up with just this vast amount of notes and input and, creative energy from every member of the band. And once, you know, everything kind of got sent through the sifter and we all landed in the same place, what we ended up with was an album that sounds like it was written by a unit, you know what I mean? Rather than like, you know, one individual songwriter or two individual songwriters. Like it sounds like there's a part of everybody in each one of these songs. And I feel like it makes the dynamic of this album just like so much more cohesive than anything that we've done before.
I have to concur. I have to say this is one I'm going to wind up being one of my more favorite records from you guys. And, you know, people always latch on to that very first thing. But I think the diversity of this record, the dynamics within the songs of this record, and even though they're still like, you know, don't get alarmed, fans, there's a lot of death metal and there's a lot of tech death and prog and, you know, riff salad, but not as much actually. And I actually think it's not so much riff salad as much as it's very thoughtful song making. And it does definitely sounds like, you know, an upgrade, if you will. We took the formula and we advanced it. So I love hearing bands that do that. And you don't get a lot of that because at this bands are terrified to make a change. You're terrified of your record label. You're terrified of what the fans are going to say. The internet is trash. You know how it is, being an internet celebrity a little bit. And, you know, famous online, but also famous for your music. So, you know, I think people are going to love this record, man. It's hard to pick a favorite. I don't know if you have any favorites, but I already have a few. And they're so, I mean, you know, Called Home, Of Beasts and Worms, Blight, both the Dopamine tracks are just a beautiful suite of music together. Actually, in my mind, I thought it was longer, but I'm looking here at the track times and it's like, oh, it's actually not that long at all. But it felt epic. And I thought in my mind it was like 10 minutes, but it's like 7 combined.
Oh yeah.
That's good. That's a good thing. Usually it's like, oh, when is this going to be over? It wasn't one of those. Here's a good question for you that I just kind of got in my mind right before we started talking. As like I said, I binged this new record heavily. And then I put on the old playlist and the other stuff comes up. And I heard the covers for the first time in a minute, which I love them. And I have to say, I don't know if people noticed before the covers how great your clean singing voices and your vocal harmonies, because I don't think people give you enough credit for that. It is a lot of people harmonize with themselves, but it's not easy to do when you're trying to differentiate the voices. And I think just ever since that Yes cover and those Rush covers, you have really like, maybe I just noticed suddenly how great your voice has been.
Thanks so much, man. Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where it's just like I've been singing my whole life, you know what I mean? Since I was like 5 years old. One of the things that I learned like how to sing was with my brother, who's about 15 years older than I am, but he was super big into like the Beatles and Alice in Chains and System of a Down and like Weezer and all types of stuff. You know, me being born in 1988, early 90s was like right when I was, you know, a little kid and first started, but he would like make me learn these harmony lines. And so harmony has been something that like, to me, I always, you know, growing up thought that like those were the parts that were written first because those were the parts that I would always learn. And so, you know, now that I have, you know, a platform, I guess, to incorporate some of that, you know, love for harmony and those harmonic structures into my own music, it's definitely something that I spend a lot of time on, and try to structure as well as I can. I would be remiss to say that Dave Otero also has a pretty big hand in helping structure harmonies. You know, sometimes he'll hear like the series of harmonies that I've structured and then be like, oh, well, what if we added like a third layer here and made it kind of do this like weird, you know, fit step down thing. And I'd be like, oh yeah, sure, fuck it, let's try it. And so I think that between he and I, you know, we've had a lot of fun experimenting with harmonies and adding nice creative layers into stuff throughout the covers and going on into Damnum as well. But yeah, man, I'm really happy to finally be able to be in a place with this band where we can, you know, feel comfortable experimenting more with like cleans and harmonies and stuff like that.
Nice. Dave, the sixth member of the band,
Yeah.
basically,
Oh, yeah.
except for one release, he's produced all your stuff, and it just seems like a perfect match. It's great to have that rapport and that trust with somebody because, again, you need an objective person, especially when you just discussed how close you guys have been and how close knit you are to the music. It's important to have that other voice in the room who you trust, who's not in the band officially, to tell you this, that, and the other thing, because it's hard. I always liken it to a superstar baseball player and their coach. If I make like $30 million, am I going to listen to the coach or am I going to swing? Like
Yeah.
I know, so it's hard, man. It's all these steps in the creative process, and especially if you care about your band and you want to continue to grow and be great, it's got to be a challenge. But I'm glad you guys are up to it. David's wonderful, man. I've talked to him before. He's fantastic. I will also say, man, for anybody doubting it, your gutturals are super brutal, mega low, so low, lower than ever. I'm pretty sure Vermin. And I'm going to say I had notes on it's either Saturnine or one of the others where there's just a super, super low that you hit
Yeah.
and you just hold it. It reminded me of a Mortician. It was like the road grader. It was like the
Yeah.
steamroller, man. It was brutal.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to showcase more and more, as I continue to write with this band. It's the kind of thing where it's like, again, going back to what I have been saying is that it's like we're always just trying to grow, man. We're always just trying to grow and add more tools to our tool belts as musicians. And there are so many sick vocalists, even between like when Apoptosis came out and now when Damnum's coming out, like so many incredible like death metal and deathcore vocalists have like come to the forefront, that it's like it's exciting for me because I hear what these guys are doing and I'm just like, oh my god, that's so cool. I have to figure out how to do that. And then once it's like in the tool belt, it's like, okay, cool. Now how can I put this into a song? And it's exciting for me to be able to take these things that I'm learning as a vocalist and apply them to Allegiant and create this, new dynamic where it's like, oh, this part's super fucking heavy. Let's put this just disgusting toilet bowl guttural in there because I can do those now. Cool. Like, so yeah, it's been a lot of fun for sure.
Nice. Who have you been listening to? Some of your peers? What are you guys gonna jam on the tour bus upcoming?
I mean, I've always been a huge fan of, Cattle Cat. Travis is like a big brother and mentor to me. He and I have been friends for like 12 years now. And so he's always someone who I listen to as a vocalist and just am constantly blown away. Newer guys, Ben from Shadow of Intent, their new album, he's always bringing it up a level. Lorna Shore's new vocalist, Will. I remember hearing his old band Awake in Providence and being like, dude, these guys are super sick. Like I'm confused as to why they're not bigger, with deathcore being as like, huge as it is right now. And then he joined Lorna Shore, and that synergy just made them like skyrocket, which was super cool to see because we toured with Lorna back in like 2016, I want to say 2018, I think it was, with Rings of Saturn. And, we were like pretty much the same size band, you know what I mean? And then as deathcore continued to get more popular over these past couple of years, they kind of started making, pretty significant strides. And then, yeah, this last EP that they put out with Will just like fucking blew them up. And it's so cool to see, people that you like were road dogging it with just a few years ago get that kind of attention and stuff like that. So definitely been listening to a lot of that, their last EP. I've been listening, what else have I been listening to in the metal world lately? Obviously, New Archspire has been on repeat for a while. Stoked to go out with them later this year and hit Europe, play some shows out there. But yeah, I mean, New Wake just came out. That's a good one. It's a little bit more like old school death metal type of stuff, but it's fucking so sick. It's like right up my alley. I'm usually a fan of more like, grindcore, like techie type of stuff. It's only really been this past like few years, once deathcore started getting a little bit more like blackened, that I have kind of started gravitating towards that. But usually my flavor of metal that I listen to is like very, like I said, just like grindy, anything super chaotic, just like anxiety inducing type of shit is my jam. So love bands like Wake and Teeth and stuff like that.
It's interesting. I thought the big trend last year was the OSDM core,
Yeah.
or like a lot of bands trying to channel obituaries early stuff, which is always welcome. And I don't complain ever about that. And yeah, of course, Lorna, that EP was crushing. I interviewed Will. I was like, how does that voice come out of you? You're so little. Eat a sandwich, dude. Eat some mac and cheese. He's so tiny. He's got to beef up. But the voice is gargantuan, which goes to show you, it's physics and biology. It's not like
Yeah.
big burly beard, neck beard.
I mean, there's a little bit of, you know, like predisposition, I guess I should say. It's like some people just have, you know, deep voices. You know, there's you look at guys like Ben from Shadow of Intent or like Corpse Grinder, and these guys have necks that are the size of fucking sequoia trunks. You know what I mean? And like, so it's got they have a much broader vocal apparatus that they can utilize. You know, versus someone who is, you know, maybe genetically predisposed to being like super tall and super skinny. They're going to have generally a higher sounding voice because they have a more narrow aperture. So there are certain things that like contribute to the predisposition of vocalists. You know, if your voice is naturally deep, you're going to have a deeper sounding growl. But what's amazing about death metal is that it's like you can have dudes who, you know, talk like this normally and are just like, hey man, how's it going? I'm having a great time. And then they pick up a mic and it's just like, oh, Satan, hello. So it's cool that it's like you can do so much within the genre and the style.
Indeed, indeed. We were talking offline right before we started recording about some shenanigans we have gotten up to in the past when you've come through my town. There was definitely a night when you guys were at one venue and we were somewhere else covering somebody. We ended up bumping into each other and going to a dance club, and there
Yeah.
may or may not have been some voguing happening.
Yeah.
And we have the video evidence. It's leaked out from time to time. But you know, obviously you guys are about to hit the road and you're in rehearsal mode. So, you know, obviously shenanigans can always happen, but you know, there's always, I always wanted to ask about like, do you know are we at the point in your career where you know your limits, where you're starting to grandpa it out and be like, okay, I can do till 2, but the bus calls at 3 and I can't, you know, rage all night in a city and get left behind.
I mean, I don't know. I don't go out with the intention to be like, oh, tour time to party every night. But like, hey man, whatever happens, happens. You know, I'm down. I'm always up for an adventure. And you know, if that takes me into the wee hours of the morning, then fuck it. Like, you know, live life a little. I try to, you know, obviously like be respectful of curfews and schedules and all that kind of stuff. Like there's a certain level of responsibility that you have to have the further up on the lineup that you get. You know, like when we do headlining tours, it's like there's very rarely any partying afterwards unless we have like a day off the next day, because it's like, well, we're finishing last. We have to, you know, get everybody settled and squared away with the promoter, and then we have to pack up. And by that point, it's like well past partying hours. And, you know, we're not trying to party before we play. We want to give the fans, you know, a good show. So it just kind of depends. But, you know, sometimes I yearn for the days of being an opening band, just, you know, finish early and just get fucking tossed all night, have a good old time. But along with that comes getting paid like an opening band. So, you know, it's a trade-off. It's a
I hear that. And we've seen plenty of that. I was going to say, what have you, you know, because it's been so hard without a lot of touring, what have you missed about touring? And you got some in, actually, unlike some bands who got none in. You did get some in, but like, what have you missed about the road, or about, you know, just in general, the tour life, now that you haven't had it for a while?
I've been just playing shows, man. You know, like there's a reason that we all do this, and it's the kind of thing where it's like when I'm on stage, like I feel like the best version of myself, and to like have that be unavailable for so long has been tough. You know what I mean? Like it's like sometimes I forget, you know, what I do and why I do it. You know what I mean? And getting on stage brings all of that back. You know what I mean? It hits you like a slap in the face that you're like, oh yeah, like this is who I am. You know, not having that as a part of my life has definitely been probably the hardest part. But you know, as someone who's been doing this for so long, it's like I've gotten so used to seeing, you know, friends all over the country, all over the world, people that I, you know, always have such a good time with, you know, whatever city they may be in, and not being able to see them has been rough. And, you know, giving even like new fans like the experience of like seeing us for the first time or seeing us for the second time, and you know, sharing that like live music experience, especially the one that metal provides, is something that I'm very much looking forward to getting back into the swing of.
Word. I love it. And just as a last question, and I'll give you back your time to get ready for tour. With the new album coming out Friday and the tour kicking off this week, beside Into Embers, which I imagine you will put in the set list, will we hear any other new songs yet live, or are you guys going to work your way up?
Yeah, we're gonna do Into Embers, Beasts and Worms, the two singles that have dropped so far, and then we're gonna be dropping another single with a video on launch day for Vermin. I
All
feel,
right.
probably feel, it's uncomfortable saying it. Yeah, we're gonna drop a video and for Vermin, and we're gonna incorporate that into the set list as well, so that we have all three singles from the new album in there. As a direct support slot, we obviously don't have too much time to showcase all the new material, and we didn't really get to do a whole lot from Apoptosis, so we are having this first tour out kind of be like a balance of both Damnum and Apoptosis, and then obviously some of the older classics that people have grown to expect from us.
Killer, man. Riley, great to see your face here. Next time, I hope in person. The new album is Damnum, coming out on Metal Blade Records, February 25th. Please go get that thing. And I get it in person from the band on the road, finally. Best of luck to you, man. Stay safe and keep up the good work, man. So pleased. Thanks for hanging out with Ghost Cult.
Thank you so much, man. Thanks for having me.
See you soon.
Cheers.